Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Rustamod Daisy here with an update video from yesterday's video wherein we described all the various hand tools that it would be nice to have to work on daisies, and I forgot probably the most important one. This little guy here is a mainspring compressor, and it is used to remove the plunger assembly from a receiver, from a daisy receiver, by enabling you to pull this spring block out of the receiver. So, to give you an idea how these work and how important they are for messing with daisies, we're going to take this one that we've been playing with for quite a while but haven't really got anything done with and use it as a demonstration piece. So step one is dismount the buttstock. Step two, let's check and make sure. Oh, look at that. We have nuts on those, which means we're going to have to reach over here and grab our nut driver to remove them. Oh, it's so nice to have the proper tool for the proper job. Come on, come out of there. Come out of there. There you go. So, take the nuts off the back side of your through bolts, and that will make life a lot easier for you. And flip it over, utilizing your Phillips screwdriver. On a newer daisy, like this one, you'll always find Phillips screws. So, back that rascal out, dismount the bolt, and then shake the trigger free. Need to get it out of the way. There's the trigger, good old steel trigger, no plastic on that bad boy. Will work forever. Next step is get rid of the lever. Same process, Phillips screw, Phillips bolt, back it out, and dismount the lever. Aluminum lever, nicely polished, no strike marks. Looks good. Now we're going to back over here and slap this receiver. Slap this receiver, not the camera person, slap the receiver into the vise. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our tool, we're going to insert it in the back of the receiver, sliding up alongside the plunger until we make contact with the spring, which will happen about right here, right where the spring block is. And then we're going to take pressure off the spring block and withdraw it from the gun. Once we get that done, we can pull the plunger out. But naturally, it's always a lot easier to get this done with the gun inverted. So you're going to be working blind for a little bit, but that's what we're going to do. Slide this in, the inside of the receiver, get to the spring block, engage the mainspring, and compress it. Mainspring compressor. So let's mount it up and do the job. Now this is normally a little of a fiddly bit job because you got a snake in here past the plunger, the back of the plunger, and that can be difficult at times. Sometimes it'll work with you, sometimes it won't. But once you get your spread right, there we go. You advance until you get to this point where the spring block itself is. You can feel pressure on the mainspring. So we're going to compress the mainspring until we can get some play. And it looks like this mainspring is really in there. Well, there we go. And out comes our spring block. So now we take our mainspring compressor out, we lay our spring block off to the side. We get ourselves a long skinny probe that can fit down into the receiver. We grab the back of the plunger assembly, and that is the plunger assembly, back of it right there, that little plate. Little silvery plate. Can't see it? Oh well, it's there. Oh, I saw it. I was tapping on it. That's the plate we're gonna grab. So we take our screwdriver, we pull that out, and then we pull it some more, and then we produce the plunger. Poof, voila, there she is. Nice and clean. This one appears to have it's got a red rider spring in it, so it's got some compression. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, because we don't need to do anything to this particular plunger assembly, is we're gonna stick it back in the gun, which means I gotta walk over here and hunt up one of my thread end pieces so that we can get this thing back together successfully. Okay, so now we're ready to reinstall the plunger assembly. So we're going to take our thread end piece, we're going to stick that in the air tube, if I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to stick that in the air tube, boom, 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 and we're going to use this to guide us through the receiver and the abutment washer so that we don't bugger up the abutment washer when we go to reinstall. And it's a fiddly bit, as in most things. There we go. Now, once we get that up, we slide our plunger assembly in. You may have to wiggle it until you get to the beginning of the compression cup. When you get to the beginning of the compression cup, It's going to be a little resistant, so you got to use a dowel to push it flush. Now for the hard part. We're going to take our spring block and we're going to reinstall it. And we're going to do that by compressing the mainspring one more time so that the spring block has something to work on. All right, so we get ourselves lined up just behind the rear sight. Get on our spring, compress the spring, put our spring block in, release the mainspring, and now the gun's back together again. All of it made possible by a simple little hand tool. But it's a hand tool you're going to need to make, or you can buy, either or. There's folks that make them, I make them. But these are so simple to build, you should do it yourself. It's a good lesson. And that's all we've got for you today, kids. This is Shane Bruce with Resto My Daisy, signing off.